So, Tetris was directed by John S. Baird and it stars Taron Egerton as the man who helped popularize the game Tetris. And it's about how he basically found Tetris and wanted to get it spread worldwide, so he teams up with the creator of Tetris to basically try to patent it in the world during the Cold War, and particularly in the USSR at the time. So, I didn't hear too much about this movie. I knew that there was something about Tetris going out in theaters at some point, but this movie's on Apple TV, but that's not the point. And there was going to be like a Tetris movie or something, and I'm like, why is there a Tetris movie coming out? Like, what can you really do with a Tetris movie? Apparently, make a movie about the guy who helps, bring Tetris worldwide, which that could be an interesting take. And I didn't hear about it for a while. I didn't even know it was in production. I just read some people were giving reviews on it, and it was like, oh, people really seem to like this movie, so maybe I should give it a try. I like Taron Egerton. I think he's a good actor, so why not give Tetris a try? So I watched this movie, and honestly, I was kind of let down by it. It's not that it's bad by any means, but there were so many times in this movie where I was watching it, and it does some things that admittedly I think are good. I just feel like they were done better in other movies. So what did I like about the movie at least? Well, Taron Egerton I thought did a good job. I thought he was very interesting. I thought he was really well done. I thought he did a really good job as this person. I really liked a lot of the scenes where he's like trying to like bring this game with a lot of these people with their contracts and such. I thought he was really good with a lot of the scenes, and also his dramatic scenes as well, when he's like, trying to like balance his life with his family life. And it's like, that's also really well done. And as well as the style of the movie, I thought was very fascinating. Like whenever it kind of cuts to like a different point or like a different location, it usually kind of uses like an 8-bit game a bit, where it's like, okay, that's kind of funny. Where it's like, okay, you have this 8-bit game where it's like, oh, this place where you're at, it looks like it's from a video game or something. And it was kind of cool seeing that. And it kind of felt like it was part of the time period that this takes place in. Obviously, it was taking place during the Cold War, so it kind of feels like it's from like the 70s and the 80s a bit. It has that aesthetic to it, so I thought that was kind of interesting. And also the score by Lauren Balfe, I thought was also really well done. It was very intense, it was very intimidating. I thought that was really well done, surprisingly. But I feel like I kind of just talked about this with Dungeons and Dragons, where that movie didn't take itself too seriously and it knew just to have a good time with it. This movie tried to be a little too serious, in my opinion. There were so many moments in this movie where I'm like, guys, it's Tetris. It's literally just a game, like, and they're treating it like it's the most serious thing possible. And I guess and I was reading into it, they tried to take a lot of cues from movies like, say, The Social Network, which I love The Social Network. I think that's a great movie, but that's not really about Facebook. It's about how, this guy basically, stabbed a lot of these people in the back and he wound up getting sued and all that. And you definitely feel the pain that a lot of the characters suffered because of the actions of the main character. That's not here. That's not in this movie. And it just it reminded me too much of The Social Network, to the point where I'm like, this movie basically I'd just be worried that the people who made The Social Network are going to be suing these people who made Tetris. And I just feel like it should have just tried to be its own thing. And it tried to be its own thing a bit, like, especially with its whole style and like how it uses the 8-bit game at one point. But even that, I'm just like, it's kind of like too much like Scott Pilgrim versus the World. And also, like, it just kind of didn't really have much in it for me. Like, back to The Social Network, there was at least that sense of like, in that movie, Mark Zuckerberg, he was like, oh, I'm going to make this. And eventually he's like, I became really successful. I became really popular. But it really didn't do anything to help him. Whereas this movie, it kind of tries to be like that, but it doesn't really work. And I also feel like there's just no emotion in this movie whatsoever. Like, it kind of just has the same kind of like feeling throughout it, where it's like you can definitely feel it in a lot of different movies where it's like, okay, here's a moment where the character's at a really high point in his life, and there are moments where he's at a really low point in his life. And I felt like Tetris just didn't really have that. It was all kind of just like medium at best, with an occasional like downturn and then the ending, which is like a good thing and such. And I feel like this movie would have been better if it had been like Weird, the Al Yankovic story, where it's like, maybe it doesn't take itself too seriously, and admittedly it's kind of more comedic-esque, but like, I also kind of just felt like, I don't know. I feel like this movie tried to be a little too intense for the subject matter. I'm like, guys, it's Tetris. Calm down a bit. And I was just kind of disappointed, because I know Taron Egerton's a really good actor, And this is from the production company that did the Kingsman movies as well. So it's like, okay, so they do have a hand in this. But then again, I remember the Kingsman sequels weren't that great. But oh well, I was just kind of disappointed in Tetris. Even though Taron Egerton's great and its style is great and the score is great, it's mainly the script that I have issues with and the tone it just takes. And I'm just like, guys, it's Tetris. You should just calm down a bit. You don't need to make this as serious as it is. Like, there were moments where I'm like, why? Why is this so intense? And not in a good way. I don't know why it happened this way. I'll give Tetris 2 out of 4 stars. Stream it. So, what was the last movie that really disappointed you? Comment down below. Subscribe to the channel. This is Pat. Stay safe.